Hey gents, today we're going to talk about why MVMT, Daniel Wellington, and these fashion brand of watches are just everywhere. If you're a savvy internet user, then you know that these things are all over the place, and I'll talk about why. As we jump in, make sure you subscribe to learn about the best menswear on the internet, and on Wednesdays, give a thumbs up for when I take a look at the industry from a different perspective and give a little bit of a macro view. Now I'll start this off with a little bit of a story of how this really came to crystallize as a thought in my mind. So I was at work, and I was at a friend's computer, and we had the T&H vintage watch shop pulled up. Beautiful IWCs and Rolexes and just beautiful watches on this site. And another coworker came over, he's about my age, savvy internet guy, and he came up and said, "Hey, are those MVMT, are those movement watches?" And I was, all at once, my internal dialogue was just like screaming, crying, laughing. It really crystallized a thought of MVMT has done an incredible job of marketing themselves and creating their own space for the watches that they make. That experience combined with a report that I read from L2 where 25% of Movement's traffic comes from social, which is 4 times the industry average. And so for a brand that is embracing the internet, they are absolutely killing it. And you can tell that if you go through Instagram, you'll see a lot of Movement MVMT watches, and there's another reason for that. The shortest answer is that Movement is a young, fast-moving, internet-savvy company, and they have no brand legacy or heritage that they are worried about stepping on. And so they're able to just push out their message, they're able to send product to influencers, and they're able to just do whatever they want to get their watches out in front of people. And I'll talk about why some of the Swiss brands aren't doing that. But the shortest answer is that MVMT is aggressive about getting their product out there. They have no brand heritage or legacy that they're worried about ruining by having their product in the hands of nearly anybody. And whatever gets the watches out there, it just helps them to sell more watches. So that's the shortest answer. These traditional brands, especially the Swiss ones, or even like the Seiko or the Citizen, are much more hesitant to dilute their brand or dilute their message, especially in the luxury space. They're not going to send their watches just to anybody. That's the reason that someone like Omega had the Aquaterra launch where Eddie Redmayne was the main face of it. They had this huge, beautiful party in Venice and everything, and they have a very specific brand identity that they're trying to cultivate, and all of these fashion watches are just trying to get their product out there. Now, I don't have a very big YouTube channel. My Instagram following is pretty small, but I have gotten 4 emails over the years from Movement offering me free watches in exchange for posting pictures or reviews. I have not taken them. I've bought 2 Movement watches. I did a video on them, and then I gave those away as a giveaway, but they didn't realize that. And now every week, I don't know why, it's like at this moment in time in November of 2017, I'm getting 2, sometimes 3 emails a week from brand new watch companies or fairly new watch companies that just want to send me product. They want reviews, they want pictures posted, and that's great for them. They're being aggressive in getting their product out there. These traditional companies, think Seiko, think Timex, think Tissot, think Hamilton, all of these traditional companies are not as digitally and marketing savvy as these upstarts that have no brand legacy to them. Look no further than the number of followers that some of these accounts have on Instagram and Twitter. So if you look at Daniel Wellington, a whopping 3.5 million followers for Daniel Wellington, and a brand that's been around much longer, has a lot more heritage like Timex or like Hamilton, or even Seiko, less than 200,000 followers on Instagram. And so these upstarts have a huge advantage because they started online and they're able to leverage that as part of their growth. The irony of all this is that these cheap watches that all these companies are putting out typically have Miyota movements. They have Miyota quartz, or sometimes they'll have a Miyota automatic movement, and they're all made by Citizen. Citizen is known for their Eco Drive. They're a very long-running historical Japanese brand. And in the watch community, Citizen is known as a valuable brand because they offer good pieces, good quality, and good prices, and that's where people have the argument against Movement. Or something like this. This is a Timex Weekender. It's like $30 on Amazon. It's one of the best watches you can get in this price point. And when people talk about Movement watches being overpriced, they're really comparing to like a Timex where you can get this watch for $30, sometimes $50, or even less, but Movement has not as good a quality pieces. They have no history of, Timex comes from the mid 1800s. They've been making watches forever, but Movement has come in and just swooped this market. Now, to Movement and Daniel Wellington's credit, they've created this entire market of watch enthusiasts and lovers in this fashion space who may or may not upgrade to higher quality pieces as they learn more about the watchmaking world. And that there is a lot to be said about that, is that they've gotten more people into the watch space. In the past, I've spoken about the first first watch that I really cared about was this Mondaine Swiss Railways watch. It is a Swiss-made quartz piece that my wife bought me, well, back when we were dating, she wasn't my wife at the time, but it's the first one where I was like, I really want to wear a wristwatch. Look at this beautiful design, I'm really into it. And even then, I was into the gold Daniel Wellington with a brown leather bracelet, and then I got into the idea of wearing a watch and then learning more about the history of watches. And even since then, I've got my Omega Seamaster Commander's Edition. And so there's something to be said about movement, raising the awareness and raising the bar when it comes to getting people into the watch space, and then having them become a little bit more educated, learn about it, and then upgrade to more pieces. Because if somebody's going to spend, $150 to $200, that's about the price range that all these watches fall into, you're way better off going with Seiko SKX or something with a little bit more credentials in the horology space. But also at that same price, you're getting this Japanese-made, high-quality automatic piece in a lot of ways, and so you're getting a little bit more bang for your buck than you are with these cheap Chinese-made, lower quality. One of the videos that talked about cheap watches has really done well, and it's brought a lot of people in where they're asking more questions about watches at certain price points. And you could definitely watch. I watch a ton of the Urban Gentry. I watch a ton of TGV to learn more about watches, and I'll try to cover more of those on this space because I know you guys want watches. And right now I'm working on a video where I'll talk about this kind of mid-tier price point, which is like $200 to $500, where you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in the watch space. I've got a Tissot here, I've got a new brand, Lux, and I've got Vincero watch. So I'm going to try and do a little bit more in this space because I know you guys are really interested in it, and I'm looking forward to having this one out there. I said I'm going to go full TGV. I got some white gloves for this one, and so let me know what you want more in this space. Like I said, I get emails from watch brands that launch every other day. They go on Kickstarter, or they're just shipping watches. And if you watch my video where I talked about cheap watches, you'll see how easy it is to just go and spin up a few watches and then slap a brand on there and sell it. I think we're in this really unique time at this moment where in the 70s people were worried about the quartz crisis and thought traditional watchmaking would be gone forever. We did lose a lot of brands in the 70s and 80s because of that, but the market is really strong now. I think at this moment in time, in the mid 2010s, 2015, is where we're going to look back and say all these fashion watch brands that were booming out of China, and the very easy access to manufacturing and branding and the internet has really drove a wedge into brands like Fossil, where they have dozens of brands and they don't really have anything to differentiate themselves from the cheap Chinese watches coming out from these fashion brands. And I think we're going to look at this time where a lot of things shift around the watch world, and I don't know that it's affecting the luxury market yet, but it's definitely out there. So you have it, gents. TGV, I am not, but I'm a huge fan of the work he does, and I even had him on my podcast with Brock, so if you want to check that out, you can hear the conversation that we had about how he started, and it was pretty cool. But let me know if you want more in this watch space, if you want me to cover more watches specifically, or more watch in the industry, because I am interested in both. And so comment below. You can also reach out at _Cavalier on Twitter and Instagram. I've been sharing more behind the scenes stuff on Instagram and some of the stuff that gets delivered here. But looking forward to talking to you guys over there. Until next time, gents, this is the Cavalier. Alexa, play Surfin' by Kid Cudi.
Surfing by Kid Cudi.